Jason Moss. Get the marketing strategy I used to make $1.4 million. You're going to have to back that claim up. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
I'm good, man. I'm doing well. How are you?
And was that $1.4 million like in a month or a week? You know, because I only talked to like 10x people.
It was a little bit longer than that, but yeah, I'm
so you're
excited
still
about it.
learning. Okay, we'll just take baby steps here. Okay. Nice. So, you and I chatted. Was it just last week? I was on your show, right? Or
I think it was.
It was recent.
We had a great conversation.
I've had a hectic life the last 4 months, man. A little personal stuff, health. My mother-in-law, she's recovering. We are out of sorts, man. So if I forget some dates, you know, it's not my fault. Okay, I'm going to pass the buck. I'm going to pass the blame, and that's part of growth, right? Like shucking responsibility and blaming
It's
your
all
environment.
about that.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the best piece of advice I have is just blame it on everybody else.
Just cope, right? Just coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So, dude, you're relatively young. I'm an old grandpa. I'm about to hit 55. You're younger than me. How'd you figure this out at an early age? Because I was not where you are at the same time.
Yeah, man. I was a big nerd growing up, and I had a passion for computers. And at the time, I was maybe 11 or 12.
Stop the presses.
Yeah.
I hated computers growing up, man. So
Really interesting.
I took typing my second semester of my senior year in high school. I had gotten an appointment to the Air Force Academy, so I knew I was going there. And we were the second class to be issued computers. These old IBMs, we had dual drive. So the class before us, class 91, had those dual floppy, the true floppies, right? Are those 3.5 inch?
Yeah, 3.5. Yeah.
Right. So we had dual drives, but it was a 3.5 floppy, and then the smaller one, the hard one. Still don't know what we call those. The 2-inch. I don't even know, right? But no hard drive. You know, we had Word back in the day, but you had to pop the disk out and put in the spell checker separately. Okay. You had to take computer programming. My mind did not work that way. So I've kind of figured it out now, but we had to take a computer class, and it was the coolest instructor. If you went to see him after hours, they call it EI, extra instruction. He would basically type out your homework for you. And I was like, it was good and bad.
Yeah.
I mean, A, I never learned, but B, I passed the class.
Yeah.
And then fast forward now, and I live on my computer. But anyway.
Well, look,
they were so frustrating to me.
Yeah, you probably predated me a little bit. I think when I was in, maybe middle school, we did computer class, but we had Macs at that point. So you had the interface and everything, and
we had Macs. We had Macs in high school. In my senior year, I took a class, and my good friend, we're still friends to this day. He came from money. He had was it a 2E? So this is 1987, 1988. So he had an Apple IIe, I think, so we could do work at his home. Oh, it was the deal. And then he kind of carried me in my high school class. So I'm good about getting help.
It's good to get help for sure. But my thing was, I grew up with computers, and, when I was maybe 11 or 12, I was a big computer nerd. I played a lot of computer games. And the thing that drove me crazy was I always had to find the CD in order to play the game. And it wouldn't play unless you put the CD in the drive. And the CD would always be like in the couch cushions or under the couch. It would take me like half an hour to find it. So one year I spent the summer of, I must have been 11 or 12. And I built this software program that made it so that you didn't have to put in the CD when you would play the game. So it would trick the computer into thinking the CD was in there. And you could play your favorite games without the CD. And so I launched this thing online. How do you do that?
I mean, it has to access it, right? Did you download the program?
It would load the files onto the computer and would create like a virtual drive. I called it Virtua Disk. And I, launched a website, and this was like my first software program when I was maybe 11 or 12.
Nice.
And I put it up online. I had to ask my dad to set up a payment processor because I couldn't, I wasn't old enough. And luckily he set it up for me. And I'll never forget that first day, man. Like, I opened up my email and got that email, "You've made a sale."
Yeah.
And something changed for me in that moment. And, how cool is it? Like, you can create something, you put something out in the world, and then some random dude on the other side of the planet who I'd never met could pay me money, and I could add value to their life. And honestly, since then, 20 years later, I've been fascinated by the same thing, which is, how do we get people to buy? How do we market and sell? And how do we use these tools, the internet, the power that we have to be able to communicate today, to be able to create that transaction in those moments? And so that has been the thing that I've been passionate about forever, and it's evolved and shifted. I studied music in college, and my first, real business out of college, I was helping artists make records, and then launched a coaching business, teaching other musicians how to record and mix their own music online, and built a 6-figure coaching business doing that. And then spent some time as a director of sales, and now I'm a business coach. So it's evolved and shifted, but really the through thread has always been this passion for marketing and for communication and for connection, and using the internet and computers as a medium to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, I still remember 2008, I found Infusionsoft, got certified as a partner. A friend of mine a couple years before built me my first website. He built it like an Adobe Dreamweaver, just a 5-page static HTML site I couldn't edit. I didn't have a merchant account. And it was around like 2009, I think. I created an online course, like using Infusionsoft, and, click here to pay. And, and you were invited to the program. It was my inner circle. And I'm still friends with the woman that found me and bought without me speaking to her. So same thing, man. That feeling. So back in the day, Infusionsoft, when you got an order, the default, you'd get an email that said cha-ching. That was the subject line.
Yeah, I
so
love that.
That's just the coolest thing. When you see those emails coming in, cha-ching, I had to turn them off. I was like, okay, I don't need to see everyone. But like, it's cool once it gets going. And you get hooked. It's like, wait a minute, I can make money like literally while I sleep.
Yeah,
But
it's the
times
coolest thing
change,
ever.
right? I mean, you can't just do the same thing forever and ever and ever, right? I mean,
Yeah, a lot
social
has
media,
changed.
AI,
Yeah.
all the noise, the spammers, the bots, VAs, on and on and on. Good grief. So, but you've been after this now. You said what, about 20 years?
Yeah, I've been building business for about 20 years now.
So speaking of that, so like, what is working today? I mean, how do we grow? It's noisy. There's crypto, election chaos. I don't know. Are we going to hell in a handbasket, or do we just need to focus and make some money?
I think a lot has changed. There's a lot more noise. AI generated content is making it possible for pretty much anyone to go out and create, content at scale. And we're already seeing that. I mean, it's been impacting text-based content for years, but now, I mean, the stuff that I'm seeing with video, where people are basically able to create like AI avatars where you don't even have to record. You can just type what you want into like this AI chatbot, and tools like Hey Jen. And I mean, it's incredible. And a lot has changed. There's a lot more content than ever. There's a lot more noise. I think the thing, when I work with clients and help them, grow and scale businesses, the things that we talk about a lot today, number one is the power of a personal brand. Because in a world where anyone can go into ChatGPT and create, how to boilerplate kind of surface level content, the thing that really stands out is humanity. It's bringing more of you into your marketing. So the days, like when I first started, in 2016, I built this coaching business online, and I created a lot of how-to content. It was a lot of like, here's how to do this, here's how to do that. And that content generated leads, and it worked pretty well. But in a world where anyone can go into ChatGPT and do that, what's going to stand out? It's storytelling, it's personal branding, it's bringing more of you, your values, your beliefs, lifestyle content to the table so that people form a personal connection with you and a relationship with you. That's the thing that I think in today's world is super important. And, across the board, what I'm seeing is a shift to higher intimacy, more storytelling, more personal branding. How do we really dial up intimacy as well? That's the other piece of this, which is, the world that I used to live in where, someone would just find you online and buy something from you. I think that people in today's world, they want more connection. They want to have a conversation with you. That doesn't necessarily have to be over the phone, but how can we build more intimacy into the marketing and sales process? And it doesn't have to be a phone call. It could be, I do a lot of selling via text message and DMs. So the ability to have conversations with someone, these platforms today make it easier than ever before. The days where you could just build a moat around you and your business and just pump out content and, have sales pages that
Yeah.
people would just buy.
Yeah.
It works. It still works today. But, if we can layer intimacy on top of those things, I'm seeing a lot more people doing, like we do a lot of live trainings and live experiences and even in-person stuff in my business to kind of layer that piece on, as well as more of that personal branding side of things. Those are the two things that I think are important and more important than ever to really being able to stand out in today's world.
So you said intimacy a few times. What does that mean in B2B? Right. I got a message from a guy. Hey, do you want to join my GTM program? Go to market community. I'm like, is the VP of sales, of $100 million company, with 8 salespeople, does he want to be intimate with me? And does he know I'm married?
Well, it changes, right? It evolves depending on who you're speaking to. And of course, the principle underneath this is understanding your market, understanding what's going to work for them, because different niches are going to respond differently. Like I work with clients who, for example, I have a guy who helps people overcome addiction to porn. And that guy, the last thing that those people want is to be in a community where, at least publicly, where, there's a lot of shame around that issue. So these are people who, when we build out marketing for someone like that, it's like we're doing one-to-many type communication. It's like all the communication is happening behind the scenes, because the last thing that person wants is to, comment on a post publicly or to be in some kind of public community where they have to be outed with this issue. Same thing with, a VP of marketing or sales is like, are they going to want to hang out in a community? Maybe if they can, network with peers and people at their level and learn and grow, maybe. But the value prop has to be different for someone like that. So I think
Right.
it comes back to understand. The principle is always you got to understand what's going to work for your people and be able to adapt and shift depending on that. But I am seeing an increased desire for intimacy across the board in all niches. And in a world like, you and I, you're older than me, but when I, as a kid, I used to go in the grocery store and there would be actual people who would, check out your food. And now you just go in the grocery store and it's like everything's automated, and all these interactions where, there used to be humanity embedded into them are now being replaced by robots and AI. And so in a world where there's less connection than ever before, I think we're craving it. And
For sure.
the business owners who can bring that to the table, community, connection across the board, those are the business owners that I'm seeing succeed today, because they're supplying a need. It's supply and demand, just like anything else. When there's a scarcity or something, people want more of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in California, if you steal under $950 worth of stuff, it's just a misdemeanor. So I don't even check out. I just grab those slabs of beef and just walk out the door. I have my Jason Moss mask. It's like Mission Impossible. So,
Done.
facial recognition. But you
That's
can
why I'm getting all
deny
those
it because
calls from.
you're in a totally different state. You say, clearly that wasn't me. I was home. But but I digress. It's interesting what you say about, I'm moving my website and rebranding, and man, I've got, as I was doing the export and cleaning things up and re-importing, like 1,100 blog posts going back forever. And part of me is like, I think I should just delete those, like half of them. It's just old stuff but it worked back in the day. My business grew from inbound, how-to videos on Infusionsoft, tutorials on cold calling and negotiation and things like that. But you're right. Like, talking about with our health issues, man, my wife has become a chat GPT guru. She's literally consulting with our mother-in-law's surgeon. What about this? And they're going, damn, that's a good point. And everybody listening, by all means do that. They missed major things. My mother-in-law was in hospital 39 days and they missed stuff, prescriptions, other issues. You have to be your own advocate, but you bring up good points about that because it's true. I mean, you can go to ChatGPT and say, yeah, I'm dealing with this, self-doubt issue. Give me, a 30-day program as if, Freud is my psychotherapist. So it'll spit it out, so like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Well, how do I add value to that?
Yeah, it's a question I think a lot of people are asking themselves right now. And the answer I keep coming back to is intimacy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm dialing it. Like, we just made a massive shift in my business for the past few years. We're running a large group program where there wasn't as much intimacy. It was more like, group calls, things like that. We took like 140, clients through it. And it was a good program. But I just shut that entire program down and transitioned my entire business back to one-to-one. And the play that I'm making is in a world, again, where, you can go to ChatGPT and you get business advice, and oftentimes it's pretty good. I'm using ChatGPT to write copy and marketing. And I mean, it's useful for sure. But what is the thing that can't do? I think it's the human connection. It's the ability to feel seen and heard and understood. And in a world where that exists, I think there is that deeper desire for higher intimacy, higher touch experiences. So dialing that up across the board. The other thing you mentioned, like blogging, I mean, this is another big shift that I'm seeing. SEO I think it's dying, or at least it's transforming. If you look at what's happening with Google right now, I mean, I can't remember the last time I went to Google and actually typed something in and I didn't get an AI generated response right at the top of the page that just gives me the answer to the question. So the days when my first, coaching business, I did a lot of blogging too. And it was a lot of SEO focused content around keywords designed to rank in Google. And the days when that's a viable source of traffic, I think are over, because you go to Google and it just gives you an answer to a question. And there's tools out there like Perplexity, which are basically challenging the foundation of what search actually is. Like the theory is like, why do we need links? Like, as a user, if I type something into Google, what do I want? I don't want links. I want an answer to a question. So I think the future of search is not going to be link-based. I think it's going to be answer-based, like ChatGPT or like tools like Perplexity. And in a world where anyone can basically go into Google and just get an answer directly to their question, there's no reason to link out to your site anymore. So, that's shifting and evolving too. And, there are people out there who are talking about SEO focused, stuff for AI, search and things like that. And that might be an industry that might be something that evolves. But I think we're shifting away from this kind of, how do we create content around, things that people are directly searching for, answer questions, more how-to type stuff, and shifting more towards personal branding, storytelling. How do we connect with people on a deeper level than just answering a question that they might have?
Yeah. I'm shifting as well. I'm looking at all that content that I have and leveraging some of the different tools out there like Medium. There's because you talk about intimacy and it's a smaller, as far as the world is concerned, right? It's a smaller platform, but you have paid members that are there on purpose and intentionally, and it still ranks very high. And I don't know, people still want links. I mean, they want to dive in, right? 'Cause I always say, meet your prospects where they are. Someone video, someone audio, someone to read, and so give all that to them and let them choose. But to get paid for your content, like, okay, that's cool. I'll do that, because I've experimented with things like Beehive for newsletters, and I'm still a big proponent of, just email, build your list. Everybody just lost their mind over TikTok, right? People crying, and then they brought it back and whatever. But you can't build a secure business on a social media platform that you don't own.
Yeah, agree 1000%. I just posted a reel about that. Like everyone's freaking about TikTok. Just get your audience off TikTok onto an email list or an SMS list, by the way, which is one thing that I think most online business or business owners in general are not leveraging enough. We recently integrated this into our business, and it's fascinating. SMS. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but the open rates and the click-through rates on SMS, like for example, if I send an email out to my list, this is a good email. Maybe it's going to get a 35%, 40% open rate, which we don't even know what the real open rate is now with, metrics, because there's no real way to track because of Apple and everything that's happened over the past few years with tracking. But it might get, let's say, a 1.5% click-through rate, maybe 2% if it's a really good email. That same thing sent out via text is going to get a 10% click-through rate or 15% click-through rate.
Yeah.
So email and SMS are my top platforms for nurturing for people. And SMS is the thing that's so easy to integrate, and a lot of business owners just aren't taking advantage of it.
And why SMS versus like a WhatsApp channel or, golly, there's a million. WhatsApp, Slack, Discord, Telegram. Like, oh crap, I can't open all.
Well, it's kind of the same thing you're talking about with TikTok, right?
All the apps.
Like, you got an intermediary between you and someone else when you're talking about WhatsApp or Telegram. I mean, the CEO of Telegram just got arrested, recently, and who knows what's going to happen with these platforms.
For what?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think he had some kind of fraud or something.
Oh.
So I'm always of the camp, like exactly what you just said. It's like, how can I do own media? How can I actually get that direct relationship with someone? And when I have someone's phone number, I have a direct relationship with that person. And, of course, the carriers could choose to reject the message and, blah, blah, blah. But it's still a more direct line of communication than if you're doing something through a WhatsApp group. I think there's still value in like community-based stuff like that. But, as a direct line of communication with your leads, SMS for sure.
How do you get that SMS though? People are not very trusting. I'll give out an email, but I bet 70% of the time I give an email, I use my throwaway email address.
Yeah.
And I have to really trust you or want what you have to give you my cell phone.
Yeah. I mean, I think the principle is just like, you got to have something really valuable in order to ethically bribe them to actually give you that information. So for me, like on our opt-in forms, like I do a lot of lead gen on Meta, like paid traffic. So I won't ask for the phone number up front. I'll just be like, here's the guy, give me your email. And then on the thank you page, just like, almost done. We actually have this whole like workshop training on how to get, leads and clients. And if you want that, put your SMS in. So it's like the value's got to be proportional to the ask, and it's definitely a bigger ask. I also we collect a lot of phone numbers like on the back end when we do live trainings and master classes and things like that. So I'm promoting those to my list of people who've generally already been following me for at least, 3 to 6 months. Those people trust me more. And if they're registering for like an event or a live training or something like that, just adding a phone number off the back of that, I found that most people are okay with giving phone number out, at that point. I mean, I'm sure some of the phone numbers are not, valid, but if someone trusts you, they've already built that relationship with you, and you're adding value and giving them something valuable in return. Yeah. You get a phone number.
Yeah. Cool. And then are you doing free events? Like, run an ad to a PDF, give a bonus, get their SMS, get their text. And then do you offer like a one-on-one pick your brain kind of thing? Do you take them to a group, like a live group thing to add more value? Like, how do you walk them through to build up, that trust so they, and then what are you selling? Like you said, are you going solely to one-on-one? Or is that just your own personal then you got a team that can maybe fulfill if they
Yeah.
need
So,
that
I
kind
mean,
of
right
work.
now, like, there's a couple questions there, but right now, like I only offer one-on-one coaching. So I help online business owners scale and grow. It's a very high ticket one-on-one offer. So yeah, I work with a handful of clients and I, have a very like high intimacy, high end, high ticket experience for them. And then we'll do, like retreats and workshops and, paid groups and things like that that are a little bit lower ticket. That's my model. In terms of marketing, like the way I structure it in my business, and usually when I work with clients, like this is how I help them do it. We're building an audience. We have different ways that we feed that audience and grow that audience. One of them might be paid traffic, free content, YouTube, podcasts, things like that. There are different ways to grow an audience, but those are some of the ones that we're using in my business right now. I have like a free guide or lead magnet or something like that. I don't sell to people on the front end. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you should, have something you can kind of convert people super, super fast. I found that the worst clients come, off the bat when they don't know you. It's like when someone's like, I clicked an ad of yours, and then you get on a sales call with them like a day later. They're like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You're basically just a commodity in their mind. So a lot of what I do with marketing is how do we build an audience? How do we nurture that person over an extended period of time? Like, I don't want to talk to someone for like 3 to 6 months. I want them to see like 100 pieces of content of mine and watch like 10 hours of trainings and to be like totally bought in. And then I get on a sales call with them. And once I can talk to that person doesn't see me as a commodity anymore. They're like, you're my person, Jason. Like, you're the person I want to work with. I don't care how much it costs. I want to make it work because I want to work with you. So like lengthening that sales cycle is actually what I found to be the best way to get better clients, lower refund rates, and just people who are like more bought in to begin with. And so it's a combination of lots of content. I do a lot of master classes, like live trainings. Those have been like our best conversion vehicle. So we'll do like a training, like a live training once a month. We just ran one on, lead gen. There's
Will
some
you
kind
do
of like
that for
promo
free?
off the back of that. Yeah. I do like free. They're like free master classes and things like that. And, they're valuable master classes. And then there's like a pitch off the back of it, basically. And there's usually like a week that I'm promoting like some kind of time limited offer or something like that. So, you got ways to grow your audience. You're creating lots of free content and trainings and, sending people, mostly like value-based stuff to warm them up. And then creating what I would call like these conversion events, which are launches, master classes and things like that. Basically take those people and convert them into, sales calls and clients.
But if you're just going one-on-one, I mean, how do you have the bandwidth? It would seem like you might be full for 6 months, and that's the dilemma, right? Well, a lot of consultants have that. It's that feast or famine. Right? Oh my gosh, I'm full. Turn off marketing, and then my clients, 2 of my best clients just didn't renew. Oh, now I got to turn the spigot on. Oh, now I got to take whoever can fog a mirror because I don't have the cash flow. So how do you keep that machine going if
you
you're
gotta always be
staying
marketing.
small, right?
I think part of it is, it's just like marketing is a daily activity for me. It's not something I do just when I need, clients. It's something that's like a constant stream. So every single day I'm, creating content, I'm sending emails out to my list, I'm nurturing those relationships. And then if I want to turn on the faucet, because, maybe I have a couple spots open, I can do like a launch, I can do a little like masterclass or something like that. But that way I always have people in my audience who are warm and basically ready to go. I'm never in a position where it's like I don't have leads. It's just, okay, these leads are constantly being nurtured so that, when I want clients, I can basically just, turn on the faucet. And there is like obviously a cap there in terms of my own ability to deliver. That's been an intentional decision to create a non-leveraged form of delivery or a less leveraged form of delivery. It's still moderately
Right.
leveraged. I do a lot of coaching like via text message and Telegram. So I can work with more clients because I'm not necessarily doing as many one-on-one calls as a lot of people do, but and still deliver, the same, I think in many cases, like a more valuable experience to people. Because, a lot of people, they don't need a call. They just need like an answer to a question or they want to bounce something off you.
Exactly.
So I found
So
a
I
lot of
tell
the time
people,
it's like, Yeah, you really don't need to do as many calls as you think you do. And I've found a lot of people structure offers as like, we think we're adding value. I think this is something to look at, in a business. It's like how much of what you're doing is performative value versus how much is actually adding real value to your clients. And when you actually look at your offer and your delivery through that lens, generally at least 50% of what you're doing probably doesn't need to be there. And you can really double down on the things that actually do, and oftentimes create a lot more leverage around your time.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. I use the analogy of spotting, like at a gym, and like when I was in high school, my little sister came to visit, and my buddy had a gym in his garage, so we could access it all the time. And I'm bench pressing, and I'm like, "Hey, give me a spot." She said, "I can't lift all that weight." I'm like, "You don't have to lift all this weight. I'm going to lift all this weight, and then after 6 or 7 or whatever, I'll get stuck." If I have 225 pounds on the bar and I get stuck, I need 5 pounds, 10 pounds of help. Get me past the sticking point. She said, "Oh, okay." And because like that's what we all typically, that's all we need. Like if you're cooking and you don't have baking soda. So I just learned that. I was helping my wife and I didn't put baking soda in. She made it was cookies or brownies, I don't know. And she was like, "It's just different." And I think, oh, she was gone. She was like walking me through it like over FaceTime, like to get stuff set up. And I didn't put baking soda in. It's kind of important. It didn't ruin it, but it was not award winning, whatever I was making for her. But that one ingredient stops you cold if you don't have it. Right. And it's usually just a 5-minute conversation, a 10-minute text thread. "Oh, got it. Thanks." They're off and running.
I love that analogy. I love that bench press analogy. I'm going to steal that if it's cool with
for
you.
sure.
Because it's such a great way of putting it. And I think a lot of, consultants, coaches I work with, we have this sense of, on a deeper level, it's this feeling of like, I feel like I'm not doing my job if I'm not, working really hard or giving them all this stuff. It's like this sense that we need to perform or overgive in order to justify the investment that somebody's making in us. When in reality, if you look at it from the lens that you just shared, it can really help people release that sense of pressure and just truly look at how do I actually help this person? What do they need? And how can I also empower them to step into the driver's seat of their own business and not create a dynamic where I'm showing up as the savior to basically drag them up the mountain, which I think a lot of that also comes down to your marketing and how you're communicating. And, there are little tweaks and shifts that I'm often helping people make on this side of things to set the right expectations on the front end, and always making sure that you're putting the other person in the power seat, instead of like, I got this person, 10,000 leads in 30 days or whatever. It's Sarah got 10,000 leads in 30 days. And sure, maybe, my roadmap or my guidance, helped her, but it's these subtle tweaks and shifts that really make a big difference in terms of the types of people you attract, the types of expectations you set, and also the experience that you're going to have when you work with people.
Yeah. I've always told people, it's like, my goal is to work myself out of a job. All those years selling software, they would ask, I'm like, "Look, I'm going to help you get started. You're going to drive. Like, I'm not doing the work. I'm going to show you how to do the work. You're going to drive. I'm going to navigate." Right. I totally flipped the script, because usually it's like the guru was setting everything up and you're just watching dumbfounded. "Oh, wow, look at that. Report settings, click, click, click." You're 8 levels deep, changing some setting, going back. They can't keep up. So they're like, "Oh, can you do this for me? How much to retain you?" And I'm like, by all means, retain me. Great. I love making money, but I don't want you to feel like you're forced to, because I did the training too quick. I did the onboarding. I'm like, so it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because I've given up a lot of money by not locking someone in, because that's kind of what you're doing, right? You're getting them addicted to you, hooked on you. And
Yeah.
it just has
But
always felt dirty.
it creates a business where you get to a certain point where it's just overwhelming. Like when I was a director of sales, I work with, have you talked to Keith Rosen ever? Have you ever interviewed him before? He's a great sales
I think I
coach.
know him. I don't know if I've had him on the show. Let me
He'd
keep
be
going.
great for the show.
I'm multitasking.
I worked with him. He was my coach when I was in that role, and he taught me so much about leadership. And one of the biggest lessons he shared with me was exactly what you're talking about now, which is, how do I see my role not as solving people's problems, but empowering them to solve their own? And when someone would come to me and say, "Hey, Jason, I don't know what to do here," instead of me hopping in and saying, "Oh, here's what you need to do," I would say, "Well, what do you think you need to do?" How do you?
Yes.
And most of the times, people are so much more capable than we give them credit for, and that in doing that, I actually empower other people to step into their own leadership and grow, instead of me basically becoming the bottleneck that, I have to solve everybody's problems. And when you got a roster of 25 clients or 30 clients who see you like that, you're not going to be able to sleep at night, because you're going to be running around like a hamster, caught in a wheel trying to solve everybody else's issues. So I think a lot of it is, how do we release that and help other people step into the driver's seat, and everything that you're saying, I think, is spot on.
I do that with my kids. I got 7 kids, and if you're not
There's a
careful,
lot. Yeah.
if you're not careful, they'll grind you down, right? And just because they're kids, Daddy, how do you spell this? I'm like, how do you think you spell it?
Mhm.
I knew you were going to say that. Well, still tell me how you think you spell it, and now guess what? I have smart kids, 4 college graduates, the 5th is in college. The other 2 are doing great. I'm like, I'm not doing it for you. And it's not because I'm lazy. It's like, I want to teach you. I want you to be able to do it on your own. And so, I love that approach. How do you pick and fire clients, right? Because I just had one, and things got sideways. Miscommunication. I mean, the guy hires me. He's running around frantic. I know that. I know him. I know his wife. I message his wife. She's in the business. She's like, "Here's his calendar. Just start booking time on his calendar." Because like 3 weeks went by, we didn't have a single conversation. I'm like, "Man, you paid me. Like, I could have just rode off in the sunset," but I'm like, I would like to help you, you know? And
Yeah.
so then I get on his calendar. We have some good calls. He's a little frantic still. Then business came in. He was frantic because for lack of business. Then business came in. Then he's frantic from new business. And next thing I know, like, he's trying to make me his employee, right? I'm like, okay, whoa, this is like, no.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be helping you, not you texting me, go do something. Like, so it ended, and how do you keep that from happening?
I just had a client I fired, and I can count maybe like a dozen clients when I think back over the years where either I've let them go or, they've been unhappy. And I would say probably 95% of those clients I knew on the sales call that they weren't a good fit, and I signed them up anyways. Sometimes it was because I was in scarcity. I was like, let me just take the money because this person is, here, they're ready to pay me. And usually that was what it comes down to, I think, at the end of the day. I will tell you, man, like the biggest lesson I keep coming back to whenever this happens, and it doesn't happen that often because I'm pretty selective about who I work with. And I would say 95% of the time I listen to my gut on the sales call when it says, don't work with this person. It's a hard thing to do. And I would say it's getting better at filtering people out in the first hand and trusting yourself and not getting into scarcity and being like, oh, I need to take a client just because they're ready to pay me. So I think that's the biggest thing is like, on the sales call, your gut's going to tell you when there are red flags, and 99% of the time, those red flags are going to come up in that first conversation. And if you look back to that first conversation, I bet there probably were some things that maybe, that person communicated that probably maybe would have suggested that they were viewing you through this lens. Like when I look back at this client that I just let go, he had worked with like 4 or 5 marketing guys before me. And he also found me on Sunday and booked a call with me in on Tuesday. And he was just in this like, desperate place where he didn't trust anyone because he had worked with these people who, didn't he didn't have a great experience with them. And also he viewed me as like a commodity because, like we were talking about earlier, when someone has no relationship with me, they haven't been following me for that long, I'm just another marketer to them.
Right.
And so that combination created a dynamic where we couldn't really do great work together. And it became clear to me after like a month in, I was like, this is probably not going to work. And I had to let him go. But I knew that in the sales call because both of those things came up in the sales call. So had I trusted myself, I don't think I would have been in that interaction.
Yeah, good point. I always tell people, listen to your gut. Looking back, like I had some scary, hairy business deals I've done and lost over the years. And every time I was like, oh, did not listen to my gut. Oh my gosh. So your website is just your name, right? jasonmoss.com. We'll keep this simple. So I'll put some links in the show notes, but you had mentioned that's just the best place, right? Get there, get to know you. I opened up with your with the free guide you've got. Should they start there?
I think that's a good place to go. The marketing strategy guide kind of walks through. Like if you're a business owner who is growing and scaling, that guide's going to walk through high level the framework that I would recommend on the marketing side to be able to do that. How to generate leads, how to nurture and warm those leads up, how to get to a place where you can actually book people who are like, they get on the sales call and they're pretty much ready to go because they've been following you and engaging with the right content for long enough to be pre-sold. That strategy guide's going to walk through like the framework that I use to help people do that. So that's available. Hopefully you'll add a link down below and I can, if you don't have that link, I can share it with you, but I think you do actually.
Yep. I've got it. And then, are you going to ask for my cell phone right after I get this report?
Well, you can see on a deeper level, you can actually hack my funnel and you can see how I do it. So if you want to go through it, you can see kind of how I collect that. And if you want to put in your phone, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too.
I mean, we haven't been intimate enough, so I don't know if I trust you yet. So I'm going to have to see. I'll go through that funnel.
You got it.
Very cool, man. Yeah, I like the site. I like your approach. So Jason Moss Coaching, jasonmoss.com. Very cool, man. Anything I left out? Anything should have covered?
No, I would just say, like, I think, there's a lot going on right now in the world. And I think a lot of business owners I talk to are feeling nervous and anxious and fearful, especially with AI and what that's going to do. And I think there's always 2 choices, we have between faith and fear. And I feel those things too. I think because I'm human like everybody else, there are moments when I'm like, oh man, things are really changing. But there's also that opportunity to say, like, how can we leverage these tools to do better? How can we change? How can we evolve? And yeah, I believe that the future of business is strong. There's going to be new tools and new technologies. AI is going to change everything, but there's plenty of opportunity for folks who are listening, who choose to step into faith over fear. And so that would be my message to leave everybody with is, how can you do that today?
Yeah, well, I mean, desktop publishing didn't get rid of books. The internet didn't get rid of face-to-face meetings or trade shows. Everybody, I've lived through a few cycles now and great promises, great fear. I don't know. We're still here, alive and kicking. I tell people, remember, right, there's still a human on the other end of the screen. And I'm just doubling down on the old Robert Collier. You must enter the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect, and to stay human. How about that?
That's it.
Good place to end on.
I love it.
Stay human. All right, Jason Moss. I was going to say like the intimacy coach, but that's not really you. I mean, you're intimate, but like in a business way and efficient. So good stuff,
Nothing
man.
creepy.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Have a good one.